The first scream wasn't a sound. It was a slice of neon on rain that caught the edge of a knife and ran down the blade like a teardrop. Somewhere in the labyrinth of the East Docks, a man begged, another lied, and a woman pressed her palm to the cool brick to make sure her heartbeat wasn't too loud enough to give her away. "Not tonight," Mara whispered to the dark. "Not before I know the truth." A taxi hissed past on slick pavement, throwing a sheet of water that silvered the alley mouth and washed the night in cold light. By the time it blurred out of view, she had her camera up, the lens peeking through a broken slat. Inside the warehouse, men in grey suits circled a table lit by a single bulb. Figures leaned close, hands past a flash drive, a signature, a nod. The kind of scene that ruined careers or bought them. Then the man in the doorway turned his head. Even in the poor light, the scar across his eyebrow was a bright line. Kade. Mara's pulse stuttered, and the city drew a slow, dark breath. She'd met him 2 weeks earlier in a bar named L'Amourne, where the laughter sounded rehearsed and the whiskey tasted like regret. She'd had a lead and a hunch, and a bruised faith in people. He'd had a black coat, a ruined smile, and eyes that never stopped measuring exits. He was a fixer, an enforcer, a rumor that walked like a man, the sort of person who made other people's problems disappear if the price was right. And he had saved her life. A dead-end tip had led her into a basement poker game that was not a poker game. She'd realized when the door locked behind her. Men with quiet hands turned toward her. A phone chimed in her bag like a last bell. Kade had killed the light with a breaker, found her shoulder in the dark, and guided her out through a boiler room window while someone inside chambered around. She'd asked him why. He'd said, "Because they couldn't afford to owe me," and walked away like saving her had cost him nothing. It had cost him everything. Now in the warehouse he stood beside the table the same way he had stood beside her, a shadow half a step behind danger. The men were finished. The flash drive settled into the breast pocket of a narrow man with a politician's haircut. The city's deputy mayor, Benson. The whispered engine of the new riverfront renewal, which everyone with a conscience called the eviction. Mara's fingers tightened on the camera. Proof. At last. Then Kade's head tilted. He was looking at the broken slat, not with suspicion, but with awareness, like he had felt the air bend around her. Slowly, he lifted a cigarette, lit it, and blew smoke toward the door. A tiny gesture that said, "I know, don't run." She wanted to. She wanted to sprint until the streets ended, until the river took her, until the city's teeth couldn't find her heartbeat. Instead, she stayed, and her hands stopped shaking. She took the shot. 2. 3. In the third frame, Benson's hand reached for Kade's shoulder, a touch of camaraderie that almost looked like ownership. The fourth shot caught Kade's eyes, flicking to the slat again. The fifth was of the door. Bootsteps in the alley. Not Kade's. Heavy, echoing, impatient. Mara melted back into the deeper shadow behind a dumpster and felt the cold chew through her coat. 2 men passed, laughing the way men laugh when they've left someone bleeding. She waited until their footsteps bled away with the rain, then counted to 60, then 60 again. When she looked back at the warehouse, the light was out. The table was gone. The door was ajar, and the city's breath moved in and out of it like a sleeping animal. "Mara," a low voice said behind her. "You're trembling." She didn't jump. "You knew I was there." A pause. Rain stitched their silhouettes together. "I hoped you were." She finally turned. The scar over his brow looked like a line that hadn't healed right because he had kept frowning through the stitches. He was close enough that she caught the scent of clove smoke and wet wool, and some small clean thing beneath it that felt out of place in him, like ironed shirts on a thief. "Tell me you're not with him," she said, keeping her voice steady by force. "Tell me you're not on Benson's leash." "Lies only work when neither of us cares," he said. "You care." "About the truth," she said. "And about people who can't afford the river property Benson is stealing." His eyes flicked to the camera. "You got what you needed." "Maybe." "Then run." He took one step back, into deeper shadow. "And when you feel the city looking over your shoulder, do not look back." "Why are you warning me?" "Because I remember the basement," he said. Because once in a long while, someone makes leaving the darkness seem possible. Her throat tightened. With me? He didn't answer. He didn't have to. The pause between them filled with something that didn't belong in this alley, in this city, in bodies like theirs. He lifted 2 fingers in a small apology and was gone. Mara took the long way home, cutting across intersections while the lights were still red, doubling back through a mall that had closed an hour earlier. She stopped and watched her own reflection watch her from a blackened storefront. She saw a woman with rain in her hair and resolve in her eyes, and something foolish under both. She sent the photos to a backup drive, then to a secure cloud. She texted Leo. Got it. Press conference in 48 hours, you get the right mics, I'll bring the fuse. Leo was her editor, and sometimes her almost friend, the kind that reminded her to eat and never asked about love. He was all elbows and deadlines, and a burning belief that the city could be set right if the truth spoke loud enough. He replied instantly, Careful. They're going to come looking. I know. You're not alone. I know, she lied. She didn't sleep. The city outside her window curled and uncurled. Sirens mapped the distance between violence and help, and the empty miles between them. Mara replayed the look in Kade's eyes. Not guilt, not pride either. Something like grief that had learned to sit still. At dawn, she walked 3 blocks to a diner where Dawn always went to smoke. The coffee was burnt in the good way. The eggs might have been eggs. She took the corner booth and opened her laptop. 30 minutes later, a shadow took the opposite bench. I don't remember inviting you, she said, staring at the code running down the screen like rain on glass. She could feel Kade's heat through the table, absurd and human. You didn't, he said. You don't invite a storm either, it just happens. You brought Benson his drive. I brought Benson his last good night of sleep, Kade said. The drive is bait. Mara looked up. For who? For us.